And welcome back, and a good day to all. If you're watching these videos in series, the previous video on this build, you saw us purge or vacuum out and purge the AC system as well as fill it with refrigerant. And in this video, I decided to go ahead and tackle something that what's not been an issue, but it's something that's been there since the very onset of us receiving this truck from auction. And that's been the rear bumper. And if you've been watching this series, especially when we were doing the work on it, to the first build series to get it back on the road again, let me get you a light so you can see things better. You can see that this bumper is starting to get pretty rusted. And if you look at the gap between it and the rear light, you can see it's almost non-existent on this side versus this side. It's still a reasonable gap between the bumper and the bed of the truck. So it's been rusted, kind of a little bit beat. Obviously it's taken some hits in its lifespan. So what I figured we would do is just go ahead and just drop this one out and replace it. And what I'm going to replace it with, and I've got this from Amazon, we're going to see how well this will kind of stand the test of time, I guess. It is a complete bumper. Came with all the brackets. Came with even the license plate lights. Has all the punch outs in it that we need for this particular make and model of Ram, because we don't have backup sensors in this particular Ram, so we didn't need the holes to be there. Even came with this top plate here. Came with all the brackets to mount the bumper with, as well as new bolts to mount it with as well. So it is a complete bumper. Now, as you can see, that we opted just to go with a black finish. So this is a matte black finish. It is made in such a way that you can paint this to match. But I figured, for now, we're just gonna leave it black and go with it and just kind of go from there. Now, if this starts to show early signs of rust or rust out early on us, then we'll just drop this one and we'll go for more of a industrial looking type bumper, which I've got a couple of ideas on that one, but that'll come later. But for now, I figured we'd go ahead and get this changed out and at least get it to look a little bit better back here, as well as in order for us to properly adjust our muffler tips from having the new muffler installed. I need to know that the bumper is more, basically straight, or at least correct from what it is now, versus, again, this passenger side here looks like it's been at least hit and kind of tweaked inward. Now, there's not much that holds these rear bumpers on. Now, if you've got the 1500 with the tow hitch like we do here, you've got one bolt that goes through the top of the bumper and bolts into a bolt that's inside the hitch. You've got two bolts behind the license plate holder, as you can see here. And then underneath, let me get myself situated so we can take a look at this. Oh, there we go. And underneath, let me get you in here where you can see this piece. You can see our brackets, both on the left and right hand side, have two bolts that go through the bracket, or part of the frame that makes up the trailer hitch, and then bolts into our bracket hardware. So there's 2, 4, 6 bolts, 7 bolts, counting the big main bolt that comes through the top and then bolts into this trailer hitch here. And we've got some electrical. We've got the electrical for our license plate lights. You can see one of the plugs right there. And then we've got the electrical for the trailer connection point there. What I'm thinking we'll do is that we'll just disconnect the electrical for now, and we'll worry about switching out the bulbs and the hardware into the new bumper once we have the old bumper off of the truck, and then we'll go from there. So what I'm going to work on next is seeing if I got a socket big enough for this massive bolt that you see here. See about getting that broke loose. And the remaining of the hardware, such as on the driver's side here, just to show you those two, you've got 2 more bolts here that could again come through the trailer hitch frame, hook up to the brackets for the bumper. So I'm going to work on getting these bolts loose. I'm going to disconnect our wiring harnesses for our license plate lights and our, again, trailer hitch, and then I'll bring you back. And yes, and as you can see, we've got our supervisor with us again as we're going through this. So let me get to work on breaking some hardware loose, disconnecting some electrical, and I'll bring you back in 1 moment. And welcome back. So you can see we got all our hardware out. I'm going to have to go and pick up a socket for this when we go to put this bolt back in. Now this is the main bolt that goes through the bumper, as you saw, through the rear center of the bumper and threads into a collar on the trailer hitch. And word of note, that does not come all the way through into this part of the hitch. It's actually just kind of a threaded column that sits underneath that. So this one, again, like I said, I'll have to go pick up a socket for. I think the largest socket that I have in my setup right now is about a 28 millimeter, and it wasn't big enough to handle. It wasn't big enough to get this out. I'm going to take that back. No, I'm sorry. 28 millimeter, I think, wasn't big enough, and the 32 millimeter socket that I have for doing some specialty work was too big for this. So it's probably 30, maybe 30 millimeter bolt. I'll have to, like I said, I'll have to get a socket. But the way we got this out, and thankfully it wasn't rusted, since that bolt that it threads into doesn't go through, was just to use a big old forged 12-inch crescent wrench and smacked it a couple of good times with old Thor here. Yeah, not the ideal way of doing it, but like I said, it was able to shock it and break it free so we could at least get it out of there for now. But you can see we got our other bolts out. Some of these are a little bit more worse for wear. A lot of these are actually still pretty good. So if these match the thread pitch in the new bumper, I'll probably just reuse these factory bolts underneath, to be honest with you, because they've got a nice big washer on them and it's basically plenty of grab there. Either way, our hardware is out, our electrical is disconnected and just dangling, so we should be able to start to work on what, yeah, you can see here we can just kind of lift the bumper up at this point, get the center bumper to clear that little collared piece that comes up from the trailer hitch, and we should just be able to drop this bumper at this point. Let's see here. It's going to be fun to do one-handed, but this bumper's, they're actually not very heavy. They're just awkward because of their size. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, plenty of room to pull that up and get that off there. You can see there now that the collar that it threads into is also part of the trailer hitch. Okay, yeah, plenty of room. Looks like we got plenty of room back here to kind of drop this thing. Let's see if I can get you set up. I need both my hands to kind of grab hold of this bumper. Although we're not going to keep it, I don't want to just drop it either. There we go. I'm just rotating it and picking it up on its end so that we can get it out of here. And what I'm going to do is get it out from behind this truck where we got a little bit more room to work on it. And then we'll take the trailer hitch electrical connection, which is, let me get you out of this mount here, which is right there. We'll take that out of the bumper, get that migrated over into the new one. and then we'll go from there. Now, the new one came with new license plate lights, but however, since we're here and kind of playing with things, I did get some LED replacements to put in there. So let me wiggle this out from behind the truck and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So you can see we got our old bumper just kind of laid out here where we can work on it. But what I want to do is kind of just push in the release tabs here. You can see, and just drop out our trailer hitch wiring, and we'll get that plugged into the, or just placed into our new bumper. Also, I bought this kit before I realized that these came with the new bumper already. So I'll put a link to all these parts in the description. But this is a kit in case you need just the license plate lights. It comes with the retaining clips, as you can see there. The LED bulbs as a replacement. The lenses themselves. And then finally, in case you have a problem with a socket, they also come with new sockets. So what we may do is just use the sockets and the LED bulbs out of this kit, and we'll keep the lenses. Actually, we don't even need the sockets because the new bumper lights came with sockets, so we'll just use the LED kits out of, we'll just use the LED bulbs out of this particular kit to go with our new bumper. But I'll put a link in the description, like I said, in case you're needing to replace your license plate lights. It's, at least from all appearances, it's not a bad kit. It comes with everything you need to completely put new ones in. Like I said, to include the LED bulbs, the sockets, and everything. And one thing to be mindful of when you are doing this job are those clips, because they are what retains the housing into the bumper. And where they're at, you can see this one right here on this license plate light. I'll probably work on getting these out of here later before we put the old bumper on the curb for scrap. There's a group of individuals that kind of circumnavigate the neighborhood on disposal days, and they look for items like scrap metal, things of that nature. And so usually what I do is I'll just take any scrap metal that I have and I'll just kind of separate it and put it in a separate pile just so it's easier for them to pick up. Again, I don't mind if somebody else wants to come by and pick up my scrap metal and make a buck off of it. Doesn't bother me at all. Now this is the factory, these are the new bolts, or the new hardware bag that came with the new bumper. Like I said, they do give you all new bolts. These are the same thread pitch as the factory bolts that we took out, which are here. Now, as I commented on earlier, you'll notice the factory bolt has a much wider washer on it. So I think I'm going to go back in with the factory bolts. These are the ones that look a little bit more worse for the wear up here. These are the ones that were behind the license plate. So I'm just going to clean these up, put some anti-seize on them, and run them back in again. Like I said, there's nothing against the bolts they sent. Just the factory ones, again, look to have a little bit more bite to them. So we're going to go back in with the factory bolts along with the new bumper. Now inside this hardware bag, they even gave you new inserts and bolts for the license plate. Okay, so now that we got that out of here, that was the only part that we needed off this old bumper, so we can get this one out of the way. I'll get the new one down here. Like I said, we'll get that trailer harness connector popped in. You can see it's just the reverse of the removal. It's just the two clips that snap in place to hold it in. And then we can work on getting the new bumper on the truck and secured. So let me switch some hardware around. I'll bring you right back. One moment. And welcome back. So we got our new bumper just kind of down here where we can get access to it. And that was our terminal connection for two types of possible trailer wiring harnesses. And as you can see here, just based on the cutout, round end to round end, this should come up through and then just push into place. Sorry, hard to do one-handed. There we go. Okay, we got this side in, and it looks like that side in. Yeah, I gotta push on that a little bit more to get that side clips to pop out, but you kind of get the idea. Let me get both my hands in there, and I should be able to straighten that out. With a little bit of a delay, and I'll show you what we did. We did take the opportunity to clean up the bed body that normally sits behind our two side bumper pieces. There were a couple areas here on the passenger side. It looks like when the bumper got pushed in, it chipped the paint underneath, and it was kind of leaving some exposed metal that was starting to rust. So we took the opportunity to kind of sand all that down, use our touch-up pens, and put a coat of paint on those areas. But I'll show you all that. Let me pause here so I'm finished getting this pushed into place, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So you can see we've got our trailer hookup module snapped into our bumper. Now I will say there is a fitment issue here, to be honest. This back bracket, at least on this particular bumper, was not, when it was riveted in place to the lower bracket, this piece was just kind of cocked to the side just a little bit. It wasn't completely flat. So it wasn't grabbing the tabs on the side of the module here. No matter how hard you pushed it in, these little tabs here weren't far enough forward because this piece here, this metal piece, wasn't completely flat. So what I ended up having to do is put the module in, as you see there. Let me get you some light. And then take a flat-bladed screwdriver, pretty good size one, and gingerly just kind of come down here on both sides of this module, kind of grab it, and then pull it forward in order to kind of get everything to push this down while at the same time pulling the module up to finally get these ears to clip in place here. So yeah, they're a little off in their measurement as far as this metal piece that you see. Let me get you some light again. This piece here that goes down and rivets on the bottom of this bumper, you can see there. So you can see this piece here comes down and just rivets to the lower half of this bumper. But like I said, it wasn't an expensive bumper, so I imagine, and I take for the fact that there will be some minor tweaks and possible fitment issues here and there. But like I said, we were able to get it. Took a little bit of leverage, but as you can see, it's in place. So let me get some stuff cleaned up here so we can get better access to the back of the truck, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So just wanted to show you this here. As we said, we took a few minutes and at least wiped down all the bigger and got all the bigger crustier junk off our mounting points underneath this tailgate lip here. As you can see, we didn't quite get all of it, but like I said, we got the big chunky stuff out of here, and also kind of cleaned up around these areas here behind the bumper before we put it in place. I need to go by and touch it up a little bit more, but there was a couple of spots, for instance here, and also down along here, and another piece here on this side that got hit. It looks like maybe when this side of the bumper was pushed inward, it kind of tagged all that. So we've been just kind of sanding those down and spending a little bit of time painting them or hitting them with some touch-up paint. Again, just easier to do before we put the bumper back in place. So now that we got kind of things wiped down, I'm going to go grab the bumper. We'll set it up in here and see how the rest of the brackets line up. So one moment. And welcome back. So you can see we got our bumper on at this point. We had all our hardware just kind of hand tight before we tightened it. Now, the reason why you're seeing the jump cut here of us just kind of going from wanting to place the bumper up here to getting it up here, I'll explain a bit more, is that you'll see some blue paint on these two bolts here in the center that are behind the license plate that thread into some thread inserts, or some speed nuts, I should say, that are ultimately on the back of our hitch. And the reason why there's paint there is I painted over them after I had to drill them. All the 4 bolts that make up the left and right hand sides, and I'll show you underneath. Let's see here. So this bracketry here, as you can see, that goes up, meets the main bracket here, and then finally bolts through. You got the bolt that comes through on both driver and passenger. You got these 2 bolts that come through the part of the makeup for the trailer hitch. All of this hardware matched up and lined up fine. No issue there with this particular aftermarket bumper. The issue that we ran into was that even though this was lining up fine, their dimensions for how they've attached the center plate onto this bumper, much like we ran into when we were putting this adapter back in, are off. The holes were up probably about 1/4 of an inch too high from where they needed to be. So we just center punched them, elongated the holes, and then finally put our bolts through. So that took care of that issue. So since we had the exposed metal on their bracket behind it, we just hit it with some engine enamel and gave it some time to dry, just to help with rust. We also, on our big bolt down here, had to trim a little bit of the plastic away from the top here, from the very top of that bolt. Otherwise, the plastic was keeping the bolt from lining up and going in straight and threading into the trailer hitch. Now, again, it's a price point bumper. I'm not saying these things to dog it or to speak ill of it. It's just, it is what it is. It's a cheap aftermarket bumper. It'll get the job done for what we need it for now, which just to make sure that we have a bumper that is nice and straight and going down between left and right. Ultimately, this will get replaced with a different aftermarket bumper. I'm still kind of making up my mind how I want to do this. I think I may get the matching kind of diamond plate full-on grill guard / bumper replacement for the front, if I can get one for this model. If not, I'll get just the grill guard, but then when we come back here to the rear bumper, then we'll get the matching diamond plate bumper that'll match the front grill guard. So again, this bumper was purchased, again, it was purchased at a price point. It'll get the job done for what we need it to do now, and then we'll come back at a later date and we'll drop this bumper and put something a bit more beefy back here. But the reason why I wanted something on here that was straight, and I've already looked on top and I'll show it to you, but the corners are now nice and evenly spaced away from the body of the bed, is that you can see there that tip is sticking out about 1.5 to 2 inches beyond the flat part of the bumper here. Now that's done that even with the old bumper after we put the Magnaflow muffler in, and I saw some reviews on that Magnaflow muffler where individuals made the exact same comment that they had to cut some off of this pipe to get this one to kind of line up to where it needed to be to make it flush with the bumper again. Now I'll show you the one here on the passenger side, and you can kind of see there where it's just barely kind of sticking out kind of where you would expect it to be. Like for instance, if I put the shop light up here, you can see right there where the tip of that exhaust port there is just hitting the edge of that bumper, versus the other one, which is the one on the driver's side, which is kind of out to here. So what I wanted to do before we got in there and started making adjustments for the one on the driver's side, I wanted to at least make sure that the bumper, you know, was straight from left to right, and it appears to be. Even our old one appears to have been, because that didn't change on that end as much at all. So chances are on our old bumper, we could probably have just replaced these brackets that you've been looking at here. This bracket that comes off here to the side, and this bracket, which again bolts from the trailer hitch, and gotten the old factory bumper to kind of pull back into alignment. But again, it was, you know, starting to rust through. So might as well just go ahead and just kind of throw this on there as a temporary measure. I foresee, and I could be wrong about this, and I'll definitely update in the future if this happens. I think that this one is gonna rust as well. I mean, yeah, it's painted kind of a matte black to help protect it, but again, I don't know. Like I said, we'll see. We'll see. Again, it's just a temporary measure. So other than those issues, other than the bolt holes there being a fitment issue, and this being a slight fitment issue to get this to click into place. So you had fitment issues here on these two center bolts. We had the fitment issue here getting this in. Other than that, it seemed fine for the rest of it. Like I said, the left and right hand mounts lined up with the bolt holes that were in the frame of the trailer hitch. Everything else went together fine. Like I said, a little bit of a minor nuisance to have to elongate those holes, but you know, I guess you kind of get what you pay for, so to speak. So with that being said, we need to make an adjustment here on our driver's side exhaust from where we put our muffler in. Now this joint here is kind of a reticulating joint. Loosening this up isn't going to necessarily allow this tip to be pushed any further inward towards the resonator. It just allows you to kind of, you know, move the tip up, down, left, right, so on and so forth. So what I'm thinking we'll have to do, and we'll get up at the top of the muffler and take a look, but if you remember, the tops of these pipes where they went into a muffler had a guide pin. Now that pin was pushed in as far as we could get it, but individuals online have stated they've had to take like an inch or so out of this exhaust pipe. So we may have to pull this entire pipe out of here, cut an inch off of it where it goes into the muffler, and then reinstall it. Or we might be able to elongate the little keyway that's on top of the muffler, depending on how much room we've got up there to play with, and get like the extra inch or inch and a half we need just to kind of seat this pipe a little bit further into the muffler, and then go from there and see if we can kind of get what we need out of it. So I'm going to pause you. I'm going to crawl underneath, and we're going to take a look at the top of this muffler, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. Well, I think I found our issue. I don't think it's an issue with the pipe being too long. If you can see there, you see where the Magnaflow is stopped right now on the factory pipe coming off the Y pipe, which eventually goes up to the exhaust manifolds. You see that spot there where the old factory muffler stopped? And you see where we're at there. Now, I don't think... I'm going to try to loosen this up. But I don't think that... I mean, it looks like that needs to go further forward, judging by where the old factory one was at. And the pin, the alignment pin, yeah, is more towards the drive shaft on this. Yeah, so I think we need to loosen up our hardware. Potentially loosen up and take the rear pipes out so we can kind of manipulate this muffler and kind of get where this needs to be. And that should fix our alignment problems in the rear if this pipe will even go in that far, because what I'm looking at here is the distance here. I mean, you don't have much space there before it hits kind of this beveled edge here and then goes into the muffler. It's not like a, you know, completely straight through piece. It may have stopped there because it won't go any further in when we were fitting everything together, but we'll have to loosen it up. Anyway, so that may be the cause of our issue. Let me get this loose and get our rear mufflers loose, and then we'll see if we can get this to slide any further forward now that our exhaust is reattached to our engine and it's fixed, unlike last time where we were kind of putting this in and this exhaust kind of moved around and shifted and kind of, you know, went where it needed to go. So let me get some stuff loosened up and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So you can see we went ahead and just removed our muffler, and this would be easier to kind of show you what I'm referring to. So this is the obviously the end that goes into the pipe that comes from the front Y pipe on back. And in order to get this pin to line up, now the good news is we can get this to seat and match up to the where the factory, as far back as the factory muffler was going. But the problem is to get this notch to line up to where the notch is on the factory pipe, it does require us to twist the muffler a little bit, which in and of itself is fine, you know, no real issue there. The problem is it requires enough of a twist on this that the back hangers no longer really kind of line up with the mounts. It stretches them too far forward. So what I'm going to do is just notch a little bit of material out on this side to give us a greater degree of swing, because what I really just care about is the depth of the pipe to make sure this is as far forward as it needs to be. Like I said, I want to notch a little bit more of this out so we can kind of have a little bit more of a left and right twist. And then this is the one that goes to the pipe in question on the driver's side that's a little bit too long. So you can see we've got plenty of room in here that we can notch this out a little bit further to allow us to seat that pipe kind of where it needs to go to line up without having to cut off of the factory exhaust length. I'd rather not cut that factory exhaust pipe down. I'd rather see if we got a bit where we can just kind of elongate this hole so the pipe will go in a little bit further. And then on this one, like I said, we'll elongate it so not only can we get the pipe to seat all the way, but it gives us a little bit more of a left and right twist to allow us to better line up our isolators and our rear pipes. And I think that's going to be I think that will get us where we need to be. I think the issue very much is on the factory long length of pipe where it comes off of the Y pipe. I don't think that pipe is turned. I think it got turned at some point, probably when some previous work was being done by a previous individual. And I don't think that pipe got turned back in where it needs to go, because where it goes into the Y pipe, and I can show you here, you can actually rotate this pipe a little bit. Let's see. Right. Oh, sorry for the camera work. Sorry, didn't mean to hit you. Right there. Is that where it goes in? And there's like no notches or anything on that section of pipe. And that's right where it comes off of the Y pipe of the exhaust manifolds where it has the cats. So chances are at some point in time this has been worked on and this pipe has been rotated kind of out of position because everything is just on rubber isolators. So it has a little bit of, you know, left and right movement, and it caused enough for this to be out of position. Or it could be just where they cut this notch when Magnaflow put it together, that this is slightly out of position. But either way, let me get some bits for you for the Dremel and make some slight modifications to these notches, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So we made a little bit of a kind of widened out the little keyway they had here, just so we can articulate the muffler a little bit more from left to right, to allow us to fit into the factory pipe a little bit further to eat up some space, and allow us to kind of get things situated where we need to be, but also still have it articulate enough to get into our mounts. And for our one pipe that's a little bit too long on our driver's side, you can see here that we just notched it out a little bit, about a ½ inch further in than where it was. So being able to fully seat the front and then seat with the extra ½ inch in the back should give us hopefully enough of insert that we need to get that driver's side to kind of come in again. Yeah, I know it's not ideal to probably be widening out these, and don't worry, this isn't so wide that the clamp still won't fit over it. The clamp will still fit over it and seal this, so I'm not concerned with that. And because I'd much rather kind of modify this before I start cutting the the factory exhaust pipes, because in the event that we want to switch this out and go with something different, then it gives us the ability to switch out to something different and not have to worry about, remembering that one of our factory pipes, we had to cut like an inch or an inch and a half off of it, and now it's shorter than what the manufacturer of an exhaust system would think that it is, and now, it won't fit unless we order another pipe or have somehow find a way to fix that bit that we cut off. So this is why we're going this way with it. So I'm going to go underneath and kind of get this dry fit and see how things look, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. Well, you can see we got our cuts complete. And if we kind of look down this way, you can just barely see the edge of this exhaust tip kind of sticking out, just barely beyond the border of the bumper. And if we do the same thing on the passenger side, again, we kind of see the same thing. So they're pretty close as far as their, forward and back out from being the bumper. And obviously you can see that this one's no longer sticking out like almost 2 inches beyond the bumper itself. So those extra cuts helped, making that one extra cut so this rear pipe could go a little bit further in to the Magnaflow muffler helped, as well as making that little elliptical pin, I should say that little notch, a little bit wider, so we could get that pin to line up and then seat further, which allowed the muffler to go forward to engage the factory pipe better. And so that moving forward, along with the cut we made to get the driver's side rear tailpipe to move forward, as you can see, took care of our space issue. So what I'm going to do next is go underneath. I've got the 2 clamps to the rear mufflers retightened at this point. I'm going to go underneath and tighten up the clamp to the front exhaust pipe for where the factory pipe comes in the muffler, and I'll bring it back. One moment. And welcome back. So we got everything all tightened back up on our exhaust, and everything's back inside its rubber hangers. And I really do think that whatever happened to this truck that caused it to end up at auction, that twisted up the rear sway bar and things of that nature, I think it also took a hit on the exhaust itself and potentially bent it in a couple of spots, which is kind of why we're dealing with some of the troubles we're dealing with. Now, to recap, the length on the driver's side, again, I saw some reviews on that particular muffler, and apparently it's not uncommon for a couple individuals to post saying that when their exhaust shop installed a muffler, or their mechanic did, they had to take some off of that. So in lieu of cutting anything off of the factory exhaust, we just modified the Magnaflow muffler to have a deeper cut where this rear exhaust pipe goes into the muffler, so it would seat further in. And then we fixed the issue with where the factory pipe comes into the front of the muffler and kind of widened out that notch, so we didn't have to turn the muffler as far to get it to line up and slide in further, because if we turned it too far, then our isolators for our muffler would no longer reach. So making those two adjustments allowed us to, again, get everything to fit without the exhaust sticking out, 2.5 inches on this side. So we've taken care of that issue. And again, it's not a negative on the product. I'm not trying to bash it in any way, shape, or form. I just think the bulk of the issue here is I think the exhaust system took a hit along with everything else, and it's just slightly out of spec as far as its dimensions and measurements, I should say. So I think one of the things that we'll put on a future list to do is to replace the entire exhaust system at that point. One of the things that we have to do, per my tuner, he wants a wideband O2 added to this, which means we're going to have to replace the front Y pipe and or get a extra bung installed on the existing one. Now, the reason why I say replacement is because, again, this is the original exhaust that was on here. So original catalytic converters, from the looks of it, they have the Mopar part numbers on them. So if they're original, they're from 2012. They have well over 100,000 miles on them. Not saying that you have to replace them at 100,000, but if we're going to go through the trouble of getting hold of an exhaust shop to have them weld on an existing bung, as we were talking about earlier in the previous video, since Magnaflow makes a replacement Y pipe with new cats and it's sectional, so we could take off just the driver's side or just the passenger side, we could take that more easily down to an exhaust shop and get that extra bung added. So what we may do at that point is either just do the Y pipe, or we may fall back and punt, just depending on how finances look. We may fall back and do a complete exhaust system, meaning we'll go new pipes out the back, all the way up front, replacement Y pipe, the whole 9 yards. When we go to put that wideband in. I'm just not sure yet, but either way, enough rambling on that one. Let's get back to what we have to finish up on our bumper here. So once again, if these lock tabs are difficult to release, and I've shown this before, and these ones back here are a little bit of a pain because they're so clogged with dirt, just shoot the connectors with a little bit of WD-40, let it soak in, and generally, once that's done, you can come in here and pop these releases off, or at least it allows them to free up. There we go. So now that one's out. So what I'm doing is just taking out you saw a bunch of dirt fall out of that one, hopefully. So these are the old factory fittings for the license plate lights. Now what I'm going to do is just reach up in here and just take the bulbs out. Actually, okay, never mind that. Interesting. Okay, so let me correct one thing I said earlier also about this bumper, is that they give you license plate lights, but I just now noticed they don't give you the sockets, which again is not a biggie because they probably expect you to reuse the factory ones, which are fine. I mean, we can do that. There's really nothing wrong with these. But what I will do, let me pause you and let me go get the replacement sockets that we have, and that way we can put those in along with our LEDs. So bring you back in one moment. And welcome back. So these are the replacement sockets that came with the kit that I showed you earlier, that also came with the fixtures, the retaining clips, the LED bulbs, and these. So all I'm going to do is just put some LED bulbs in here, and I'll show you that. It doesn't say that they are polarity sensitive, but we can find that out soon enough. It's easy enough done. We could just turn the headlights on when we're done here, and make sure they power up. Okay, that is a tight fitting socket. Oh yeah. Sorry, I know the camera works a bit. There we go. Oh yeah, that is a tight fitting socket, let me tell you. Okay, so let me get these installed in here, and I'm going to turn the lights on. We're going to verify those work, and then we'll get them installed. So bring you right back. One moment. And welcome back. So just to show you, hopefully you can see that they're on and they're working. So let me pause you, turn off our headlights here to cut off our ding. So let me pause you, get these installed into the fixtures, and I'll bring you back. So one moment. And welcome back. So just finishing up the bumper install here. And one other thing that we've just ran into is that they have the license plate holes too low and too close together, at least for stateside license plates. The holes are in the right spot for the mounting bolts to go through, as we saw earlier, into the trailer hitch, but not the license plate. So even if you cut this piece of plastic down here at the bottom to allow the plate to drop, even if it were to line up, they'd be too close together. So what we ended up doing here is, because I usually like to use these riv nuts in here so I could use, stainless steel bolts to attach the license plate with. I just drilled a couple holes, put a couple of riv nuts in, and that pretty much takes care of the problem. So, FYI, just another, I guess, what you might want to call a fitment issue. But like I said, don't take me pointing out all the fitment issues as complaints. I mean, I get it. It was bought at the price point, and kind of certain things come with that. So I'm going to finish getting the license plate installed, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So I just want to show you the factory bumper here, make a correction on one thing on a bumper install. I thought these were license plate bolts on the new bumper. They're not. They're for push pins, as you can see on the factory bumper here. It looks like they left it up to you to, as we did, to mark your own license plate holes. And if you could choose to use them, use those little square inserts. We chose to use riv nuts instead. So my correction on that one, and I will put some text at the top of the screen earlier in the video pointing out that these are not license plate bolt holes like I thought they were. But anyway, with that being said, we've got our new bumper, or temporary new bumper, installed until we come up with something permanent later. We've got the lights wired in, electrical's all done, and as you saw in the video, we went ahead and corrected for the longer driver's side tailpipe due to the fitment of the Magnaflow muffler, which again, some individuals that did post reviews saying that their shops had to do that. So you can see you can see the bumper here, still much better than what we had. It's no longer bented. It's no longer bent, sorry, or dented inward towards the bed. And like I said, it'll definitely do the job that we need it to do until we can seek replacement. I'm still kind of pondering what we're going to do there, but more than likely probably something industrial looking, maybe something with some diamond plate on it. Something that'll definitely match the grill guard that we have in mind for this. Anyway, with that being said, just going to cut it short because I'm quickly running out of battery here. So we got the new rear bumper installed. Again, made modifications to the Magnaflow muffler. Got the muffler extension length taken care of. We'll have to wait till we get it outside and can step a pretty good ways back from it to adjust the tips of the mufflers, up, down, left, and right, because it does have that ball and socket type movement for that one adjustment on that one clamp towards the end we can use. And I'll show you all this when we get to that point of it. But anyway, with that being said, hopefully this video was helpful to you. If you have subscribed already, I do thank you. If not, please consider doing so. The goal is to try to get up to 3,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And with that being said, I will let you go, and I'll bring you back for the next one. Thank you much. Bye.